Okay, so I was actually thinking of watching the new Barbie movie just so I can name this review Barbenheimer, since apparently that's the new thing that's going around recently. I think that would have been like a cool kind of mashup review because I haven't really done anything like that on this channel before. But then the label for last night's advanced screening of the Barbie movie was called Girls Night Out. And then I was like to myself, okay, I don't want to be the only solo guy going in to watch that movie. It's kind of weird, if I just go in and show up and the theater's mostly full of girls or girls with their boyfriends, you know what I mean? Besides, I don't like Barbie one bit. The only reason I kind of want to watch it is because I review movies, Like, of course, I want to watch basically every highly anticipated movie that comes out, right? Not only that, but because of all the stars that's in it. You've got Margot Robbie, Ryan Gosling, Simu Liu, and apparently John Cena's in it as well. It kind of looked like it could be a fun time, regardless of what the name suggests for me. But in the end, I was like, let's save the embarrassment of being seen going in theaters to watch it. And yeah, I might wait until I can watch it online or something. So I settled with just Oppenheimer, similarly with a star-studded cast, but instead of a fun one, we have a much more serious film, recounting the story of Robert Oppenheimer and how he created the atomic bomb. And you know what? I might have had a better time with Barbie. Because, wow. Let me just say, well, first off, let me just preface this by saying, this is definitely a film that you have to know what you're getting into. Because first off, it's not really a film. It's a biopic. It's a documentary. It's a long and extended talking marathon. It's a slow burn, and it has complex ideas and might be sometimes hard to digest. I know the majority of what I'm saying and what I'm about to say contradicts what 95% of what people are saying about this movie. Everyone's going on about how it's really good, off of the reviews that I've seen on multiple platforms. So with that being said, I mean, in the end, this is not really a film for me, and I didn't really find that out until after I had watched it. Please keep this in mind because I don't want to hear about how I'm an idiot and this film is awesome, I just don't really see it. Look, I'm going to make this review kind of short and sweet because there's not a whole lot I want to say about it, to be honest. For a 3-hour movie, you'd think otherwise, right? And I should have a lot to talk about, but it's rather quite the opposite. If you are someone who is into biopics, documentaries, slow-paced films, physics, politics, history, then this might be right down your alley. For me though, this movie was a drag with a confusing and kind of hard to digest plot. I honestly feel like you have to have a high enough IQ, have a good night's sleep the night before, and pay very close attention, because at one point I had no idea what the hell was going on. It almost felt I was in class and watching one of those compulsory videos, info documentary that, for instance, someone like my science teacher just put on for the class just for us to study, but I didn't give a single fuck about it, and I just zoned off and started daydreaming. That's kind of what I felt like when watching this movie. This movie is definitely way more interesting on paper. The development of the atomic bomb, the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Worlds collide, history gets changed forever. But instead, we just get political drama, back and forth rambling, and a court case I was not interested at all whatsoever. It bored me and almost put me to sleep, if I'm quite honest. And it's not really on par with any of Christopher Nolan's past films like Interstellar, Tenet, Inception, or whatever. There's hardly any action or any epicness, really. Oppenheimer is more theoretical than theatrical. It's not a movie with a whole lot of sparks and epicness, despite what you may think going into it. Now, okay, there is some of that, yeah. Though I can only really recount like two epic scenes throughout the whole entire movie, like two epic sequences or scenes or whatever you want to call it. Not worth sitting through like the 3 hours to get to that point, though it is there. And I did find myself kind of slightly tearing up at one of the parts because the part really like tried to emotionally connect the audience with, you know, the devastating aftermaths of like an atomic bombing, right? But I'd be lying if I said I didn't expect it to be more emotional and more epic. But like I said, this isn't really it's ended up not really being my type of movie. It doesn't go in the way that I would have wanted it to go, and it probably never would have. It's basically like a dramatic documentary, a retelling of a story and like a part of someone's life. And again, I want to emphasize so very hard for this movie, you have to know that you have to know what you're going into. You have to know that that's what you're going into. For the most part, for some odd reason, I was just bored out of my mind for most of this movie. Like I said, it was definitely way more interesting on paper, and even though there was a star-studded cast in this one, for me it wasn't enough to save it. But I did like how the more I watched, the more some actors popped up that really surprised me. Like, I was like, oh hey, I've seen that guy from somewhere. Ultimately, if you want to see Florence Pugh half nude, you're interested in biopics, and all of the above I mentioned, you don't mind a slow burner, you have an eye for small details, like mathematics and deeply analyzing certain topics, a scientist, a historian, a professor, someone who might be old, then this might be a movie for you. This movie doesn't go in a way that I would have liked it to go. It's as simple as that. In my eyes, it was not as epic as it could have been. A lot of the epicness happens off screen. And there was a building up to an epic moment in this movie that was pretty good, but it was a far cry from how I imagined the final act to go and how it would have a really epic and dramatic conclusion. For the most part, this movie for me was just a lot of boring talking. I'm going to give Oppenheimer a C. Maybe some people will hate me for this, maybe they won't, but this is just literally how I feel. And like I've expressed this so many times during this review. You have to know what you're going into, and this isn't a movie for me. I kind of had a glimpse of that, like I thought to myself that coming into this, like it wouldn't be a movie that I'd kind of enjoy, but even with that being said, it lacks the epicness that the majority of the casual audience, or even someone like me, expects. But there you have it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you think down below. Like and sub if you enjoyed, and as always, feel free to check out any of my previous videos. Until next time.